Okay, welcome back to my lore playthrough of Bloodborne, specifically to find connections between Bloodborne and H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, in an effort to prepare myself for an upcoming exploring video. So, we are not too far into the game and the story at this point. We're going pretty slowly, but that's okay. We're talking. Let's recap, because that's good. Let's recap the facts that we know. Our character came from a foreign land. He is an outsider. He arrived in the city of Yharnam, which has a reputation for being a little, crazy due to their love of blood as both a medicine and a drink, apparently. I think actually I think it's here. Yes. Once a patient has had their, where the hell did, the Molotov? One of the items mentioned as a drink. Here you go. Pungent blood cocktail. Releases a pungent odor when thrown that attracts bloodthirsty beasts. Precious tool in sadly short supply. In Yharnam, they produce more blood than alcohol, as the former is more intoxicating. Okay, I guess I'm not really implying that they drink it. It's just that it's intoxicating. I think it's still about injecting it into their own bloodstream, and that's intoxicating to them. I think just the combination of cocktail and the mention of alcohol, some people may think they drink it, but I don't think they drink it. That wouldn't be my guess. No surprise that most Yharnamites are heavy users of blood. Yeah, so see, it's a common treatment in Yharnam to have your blood ministered. And so you are infused with these special blood. Successive infusions recall the first and are all the more invigorating for it. So I would assume blood ministers, such as the one that we saw when we first woke up, it's a lucrative trade. It's probably a popular trade. There's plenty of blood ministers in Yharnam because Yharnam is about blood. Their business, their world in Yharnam revolves around blood and these ministrations. So, blood ministers must be fairly essential at the very least. Anyways, so Yharnam has a reputation for that. And so our character, coming from an outside land, a foreigner, comes to Yharnam for an unknown reason. And that's the fact. Now, there are theories, there are implications, what have you, about why exactly you did come to Yharnam. Some say, and this is repeated various times on the wikis, that you came here because of an uncurable disease. I could not find a source for this anywhere. I could not find an item description or anything. This seems like just a common theory that you came here because of your disease. I don't know if there's like an out-of-game source, a manual, or some, I don't know. But I cannot find a source for that. I would love if somebody could provide a source for that you actually came for the disease. Because that would modify my theories a bit. So if anyone knows where it's stated, if at all, that you did indeed come here because you had an incurable disease. I mean, I could understand the theory, absolutely, that a character would certainly come here from outside Yharnam to be cured, because that's what they're known for. But the sort of a conflicting theory with that people also have is that note you found in the clinic when you wake up that says seek pale blood to transcend the hunt, they think that you yourself wrote that because you have apparently memory loss. Because if you look at your armor, It says, without memory, who will ever know? Because you have faint memories. You don't remember why you came here. And so people think that you wrote that note for yourself before you went through the blood administration, implying that you knew you would lose your memory. Which isn't often... I mean, it's not like the blood administration mentions that you lose your memory or anything like that. I don't know how you would be prepared for that. But I think, you know, if you came here because of your disease, why would you write yourself a note saying, seek pale blood to transcend the hunt? What do you care about transcending the hunt if you're just here to be cured? So I think those are conflicting theories. If you're going to believe in one, you can't believe in the other. Personally, I don't think you wrote the note, and I don't think you came here to be cured. So I don't like either theory, but that's just me. Regardless, though, you are greeted by a blood minister who is apparently blind. He has bandages or coverings over both of his eyes, and clearly he's missing one eye, apparently, according to what people say. But the covering of eyes is fairly symbolic throughout Bloodborne. Eyes in general are very symbolic throughout Bloodborne. And so this guy tells you, the first thing he says is, oh yes, pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place. Now, many people, it's just assumed by plenty of people that your character, voiceless and nameless, genderless, mentioned pale blood. Okay, this is why people think that you wrote the note about pale blood, because it's assumed that before he says anything, you said, what about pale blood? I'm looking for pale blood, or something to that effect, and he says, oh yes, pale blood. But you never hear yourself say that. And I understand they couldn't have a voice for this character with no gender and no sort of description or anything like that. You are a voiceless character. So there's no way that they could have him ask about pale blood. And, adding on to that concept is the way that he talks about it. He first talks about it is as if you said something. He doesn't say, you should look into pale blood or something pale blood. He says, oh yes, pale blood. Well, you've come to the right place. I think that's probably the more likely theory, is that you ask about pale blood. But the problem is, you don't know what pale blood is. I don't know what pale blood is. Nobody knows what pale blood is. Another guy we'll talk to has no idea, has never even heard of pale blood. So why have you heard of it and you don't know anything about it? So I guess you're going with that theory. It is assumed that you've come to Yharnam just looking for pale blood. And then that would go with the theory that you yourself did write the note, that you're looking for pale blood. But I don't know. It's sort of really a weak plot element that you're just, oh yeah, I came to Yharnam, I'm looking for pale blood. I have no idea what it is. Apparently you transcend the hunt. I'm gonna go look around for it. So I prefer the theory, and it allows me to connect it to Nyarlathotep with the idea that he put the idea of pale blood into your head so that you'll go on this sort of quest, per se. He then says, before then he administers blood to you, you'll need a contract. And that goes to the character creation screen where you make your character. And then he says, all right, all signed and sealed. So he gives you a contract. Now, the nature of the contract is really mysterious. We don't know within the lore what exactly this contract is. But I was reading around and I actually found something interesting of note. Is the Hunter's Mark. This is etched in your mind. It's the symbol of a hunter. By focusing one thoughts on this rune, a hunter loses all blood echoes, but awakens afresh as if it were all just a bad dream. Now, the last thing the Blood Minister says to you is, you may think it all a mere bad dream. Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere bad dream. And so, it seems to imply, if I'm going to go with implications here, that the Blood Minister etches this rune into your mind. Which is pretty trippy. So, I have heard a theory that the Blood Minister there is actually Carol, who is still alive and etching runes into people's minds. That is pretty crazy. I don't know if I can work with that. But, you know, you sign this contract, and then suddenly you have a rune. The words of the gods, these alien gods, in sort of symbol form, etched into your mind, and you can focus your thoughts on the image of this rune in your mind, and you awaken afresh as if it were all just a bad dream. So I don't think the contract has to do with blood administration, because not everyone in Yharnam is getting the hunter's mark. It's a very specific thing for hunters. Not only that, moon-scented hunters, probably. And so the contract seems to be a very special thing that this Blood Minister was responsible for. Anyways, I know we're just going to sit here for hours just talking and reiterating things. So anyways, we get the transfusion, we get the contract, and then suddenly we wake up in sort of this nightmarish world. There's like this fire beast that gets burned when it tries to touch us, which is a whole other ball of theories. The little messengers here, they start crawling around us. The doll says, I see you found yourself a hunter. And we go out into Yharnam and we find it's overrun by beasts. And we also eventually make our way to the Hunter's Dream, where we encounter Gehrman and the doll. Now, it seems that this whole beast outbreak, you know, where it's really like there's fire in the streets, there's crucified beasts and all that. The people of Yharnam are out in the streets hunting and all that. From what I understand, this only happens on specific nights with a specific moon, like a full moon. The moon is very involved in this process. This whole beast outbreak does not happen every night. It's very specific. And that's why, you know, we are going over the course of a night. Now, some people debate whether it's a single night or it's just a period of time that's represented as a night. Either way, as we play through the game, the sky, which starts out as sort of dusk, it gets darker and darker, and eventually, you know, the moon comes out and all that. And and this moon, this special presence of the moon, not the moon presence, but the presence of the moon, seems to ignite something within the people of Yharnam, or at least all the people of Yharnam that are using this blood, that have this special alien godly blood in their system. And so, see, Old Yharnam burned to the ground that moonlit night. So it's very specific. The Old Yharnam, which is now just overrun, infested, just abandoned by people, that all went down on a moonlit night. So it's very specifically tied to the presence of the moon. Now, last time, at the end of the last video, I searched for, like, Lovecraft and moon. And that's when I was looking at Moon Beast. But I skipped over something that's far more relevant. And I went back and I was like, wait a minute, let me look at this. This is far more relevant, and I'm not the first person to find this connection. I've looked and other people have talked about it, but H.P. Lovecraft wrote a short story in 1922. It's very short. It's almost like a fragment of a story. that's based on one of his dreams, which he did a number of times. He often used inspiration from dreams. But it's based on one of his dreams, and it's called What the Moon Brings. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. You can look it up, and I'll obviously incorporate more into the video. But the first line of this is, I hate the moon. I am afraid of it. For when it shines on certain scenes familiar and loved, it sometimes makes them unfamiliar and hideous. Now, if that's not the fucking inspiration for the entire plot of this game, I don't know what it is. You know, basically, the whole plot is this city that is just living it up in reverie and just, you know, having a good time. They're intoxicated by blood. It heals, it cures all your diseases. Everything's great. And then suddenly the moon comes out, a special kind of moon, and everything goes to shit. The entire city is burning, beasts are on the street, you know, massacring people, and everything just becomes unfamiliar and hideous. I would be shocked if the creators of this game did not read this short story. So that is it's a far more valuable connection than the moon beast. So I think I found the moon connection that I was looking for. So that's good. Yeah, unfortunately we have to slaughter a lot of dogs. That's not nice. Unrelated to all this lore stuff and all that, but just today, apparently, or very recently, whatever, some people discovered in one of the Chalice dungeons a new enemy type that no one had ever seen before. Apparently, it was in one of like the trailers or something like that from a while ago, but no one has ever seen it, and so people assumed it was cut content. But some people finally found it in one of the Chalice dungeons, which is really crazy. There's like untold, you know, horrors lurking somewhere in those depths, waiting to be found. That's really cool. I mean, they could have like stealth patched it and added it in. Who knows? But it's sort of like a fire tall giant dude. I don't know. It's not like some crazy abomination or anything. But all right, here we have Eileen the Crow, which is our first hunter that we come across that we can talk to.
Oh, a hunter, are you? And an outsider? What a mess you've been caught up in. And tonight of all nights. Here, to welcome the new hunter.
Alright, so she immediately recognizes us as a hunter, probably because we're using hunter's weapons. She also recognizes us as an outsider, probably because of our clothes. We're not wearing Yharnam clothes. And she says, what a mess you've gotten yourself into tonight of all nights, because tonight is the moonlit night. It's a very special night. Now, there is trouble on nights other than these moonlight nights, because of course. But this is really the worst night, I suppose, to be a hunter. And it just so happens, very coincidentally, that we have become a hunter on this night.
Prepare yourself for the worst. There are no humans left. They're all flesh-hungry beasts now. Still lingering about. What's wrong? A hunter unnerved by a few beasts. No matter. Without fear in our hearts, They're a little different from the beasts themselves.
Okay. She teaches how to shake off our cape. Okay.
What are you still doing here? Enough trembling in your boots. A hunter must hunt.
Alright, so she doesn't really have much dialogue for us now. We'll try to do her quest line. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. I don't really want to go into too many concepts here outside of what I'm doing in game. Because I'll just go off on all these random tangents and things like that. I want to focus a little bit. No. You know, the whole nature of the hunters is not particularly well understood. We find out that, you know, we're not the only one to have a contract. Other hunters that we encounter also mention having a contract and fulfilling a contract, and yet they're still around doing whatever they do. I thought that Eileen had fulfilled her contract at some point, but that might be what we are like helping her do with the quest line. I've never done it. I've just seen footage of it and things like that. That was the weapon, wasn't it? I dropped it on the wrong side. Shit. I'm gonna read. Did I get any new items here? Sometimes when hunters burn beasts, they appear intoxicated by the euphoria of purification. That's interesting. I don't know what I can extrapolate from that. Fire has become a staple, and beast hunt is thought to cleanse impurity. So the idea of purification, because basically, you know, it's considered a plague that is responsible for turning people into beasts. But really, that's not actually the case, right? Because it's just the blood that they're using, which is sort of triggered, or there's a catalyst activated, whatever, because of the moon presence. But it says, since the tragedy that struck Old Yarn, fire has become a staple in beast hunts. But when the... Okay, so my thought is, I guess, you know, when the night's over, you know, when the moon comes here, does its thing, the night comes, these things, people all turn into beasts and whatnot like that. The night ends. The beasts all don't just disappear, right? The beasts are still around. But I guess, like, they manage to contain it. They have the hunters that are continually there hunting beasts over the years or whatever, the months, whatever it may be. I think it's years, because they built New Yarnum and stuff like that. So it's just really the moon presence. This is my thought. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. it's the moon presence that, like, re-triggers it amongst all the humans, creating a whole new fresh spree of beasts. So I don't think the beasts are ever, like, extinct. Not really. I mean, maybe they were, like before this night, like, the week before this night, in Yharnam, things were probably pretty calm. I'm assuming, as far as beasts are concerned. They do beast hunts, but I think overall the city has to still operate. You know, it doesn't operate in this present form. This is just the shittiest of nights because the whole event is re-triggered. But we're operating under this whole idea that this is a nightmare because of this night. Now, is it a nightmare in the sort of proverbial sense, the metaphorical sense, the poetic sense, or is it actually like a dream? And I was fairly convinced, and I think I still am fairly convinced that it's a dream because of things like this. You know, the fact that you can awaken afresh. The fact that you can reset things. The fact that you can't die. You know, all these things seem to imply this is not just basic reality happening. What else do we got? It's just it's a parchment with the same mark on it. You'd think I could easily make these bold hunter's marks, but apparently not. They're very rare. See, sustained by the dream. Okay, so we're sustained by the dream. Now, does that mean we're sustained by the hunter's dream? Huh. I mean, as far as I know, we're the only hunter sustained by the dream during the game. As in, if I kill Eileen, she doesn't come back. She's dead. If I kill Jura or whatever, they don't come back. And that's because I think what it is they've gone through what I'm going through. And that's where we'll get into, like, the moon-scented hunter discussion and things like that. The special type of hunter. A hunter of the dream. We're somehow connected to the dream. We're connected to Gehrman. We're connected to the moon presence. And I think Eileen and Jura were, but they fulfilled their contract. They lived through their night. I think they were like... I think that they chose the submit your life ending, where Gehrman cuts off their head and they wake up the next day and they're alive. But they're continuing to hunt because that's what they're hunters. That's what they do. But they're not the special type of hunter anymore. They're done with that. They keep, the moon presence and all that. It keeps moving on. It has a special hunter every night. Every night of the full moon or whatever. So that seems to imply then that this is not a dream we're experiencing. I'm gonna check my own statement there. This is not a dream we're experiencing. This is actually all happening, but we are sustained by the dream, which is really created and controlled and done all that, sustained by the moon presence. So it seems like no other hunter can use Cold Blood Dew. No other hunter can use Blood Echoes. Which makes sense, because, we don't find anyone in Yharnam that is like... At least I'm pretty sure we don't find anyone that's buying Blood Echoes or trades in Blood Echoes or anything like that. That's only in the... It's only in the Hunter's Dream. Now, I have a question as to what is cold blood. Is that specifically... Is it literally just cold blood, or is it... Is it a special type of blood? I don't know. That's something you just gotta search for. I don't know if anyone's really discussed it. Alright. Here we go. Now this is an interesting item. Skull of a madman touched by the wisdom of the Great Ones, used to gain insight. Making contact with eldritch wisdom is a blessing, for even if it drives one mad, it allows one to serve a grander purpose for posterity. Alright. So this is literally a human skull of an insane person, and he's insane because he was touched by the wisdom of the Great Ones. And somehow we use this to gain insight. So somehow we use this to gain a piece of that same wisdom, right? And it allows you to serve a grander purpose for posterity. But I mean, basically, I guess that's saying it allows you to pass on that wisdom to future generations, which is what's happening when we use this item. That knowledge, that wisdom, is being passed on to us. Now, in the artwork there, in the little picture, you can see the symbol or the image or whatever of the... what the hell is it called? The sort of the slug. It's, what the hell? I have to look up specifically what that item is called. It's a thing. It's a thing. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna find it. Now I have to find it. What? Where the hell do they even list this stuff? I thought it would be under weapons or items, but it's not. I can't even think of what... It's hunter tools. That's what it's called. I'm just gonna search that. The empty... No, that's not it. The auger of Abritus. That's what it looks like. Yes. Which we'll find much later. I guess it does kind of look like the empty phantasm shell as well. I don't know if it really means anything, because it's just sort of a representation of the Great Ones. And so, okay, so insight, the concept of insight, of eldritch wisdom, of knowledge of things beyond the earthly realm, you know, the supernatural, things like that. This is obviously a very, very common thing in Lovecraft's work. This is, I mean, any sort of discussion of connections between Lovecraft and Bloodborne, this is at pretty much the top of the list. I really don't have to talk about it too much, because it's just part of the sort of the central theme of the game and of his works. And so... you know, a common thing in Lovecraft stuff is characters that gain or experience something revolving cosmic horrors and the unknown, the unmentionables, you know, eldritch truth. They tend to have this tendency of writing it down, you know, because that's usually what you're reading is these people's writings after they've experienced it and things like that, or you know, Abdul al-Hazred, who wrote the Necronomicon, you know, he experienced as much eldritch truth in it as anybody could, and he wrote it all down in a book to serve a grander purpose for posterity, so that, you know, down the line, future people could continue to read this eldritch truth and gain insight. So, really, Madman's knowledge in the form of a skull is really just a simple swap for a book, you know, an eldritch tome, the Necronomicon, the Cults des Ghouls, the Aussprechlichen, or whatever the hell it's called. I mean, you know, Lovecraft's work, Call of Cthulhu and all that, it's filled with all sorts of mythos tomes. I could read off just lists and lists of the Voynich manuscript, the Liber Ivonis, the King in Yellow, of course, the De Vermis Mysteries, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. Mythos tomes are a very common thing. That's basically what this is. It's the exact same thing. It's passing the eldritch truth, eldritch knowledge, insight onto the next person. Just with books, it seems purposeful. It seems like, oh yes, I want to pass on this knowledge to somebody else. That's why I'm writing in this book. Whereas this, it's like, well, I died and somehow my skull maintains this. In some ways, to me, it seems just a little kind of over the top, to be honest. It's a little like, wow, books are boring. Nobody likes books. How about we have a fucking skull and it's like split open and yeah, it's awesome. It's a little over the top, but okay. We're not gonna get anywhere in this game. We're just so slow. All right, well, let's try to beat Gascoigne by the end of this video, because we do have to get further in the game so I can continue to talk about stuff. I don't even remember what that is. Is that upgrade material? Oh, it's bullets. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's fight the giant pig. Insert our hand up its anus. So, believe it or not, H.P. Lovecraft actually wrote a short story early on involving a pig, and no, I'm just making it all up. I'm lying to you. I'm lying to you. I had you going. Actually, I don't know if you ever wrote anything mentioning a pig. I want to say no. That seems pretty far-fetched. No, I don't think so. he was apparently inspired about... he was inspired by a book about huge menacing humanoids with swine-like features. Swine things. So he was inspired by that, but I don't think he ever wrote anything involving pigs. I'd be impressed. Okay, I was just joking. Just joking. Ooh, the Saw Hunter badge. Badge crafted long ago at the workshop attests to one's prowess as a hunter of beasts. The workshop is gone, and no group recognizes this meaningless badge, except the messengers in the bath who understand its profundity. Certain things can only be entrusted with a hunter in a possession of this badge, or so they believe. No group recognizes this meaningless badge, because the workshop is gone. So... I don't think it's really stated ever how long the hunts have been going on, how long this problem has been happening. But I'm pretty sure it's been decades. Because... what was that? What was... Well, I mean, there is a finite, probably, number, because the biggest clue for that is Master Willem, who we find at Bergenworth much later on. You know, the Bergenworth is where the Healing Church really sort of started, because they found the blood originally. And you find Master Willem still alive. Although he's very decrepit, he can't do anything, and we're not exactly sure, you know, if there's some sort of life-lengthening process. Who knows? But I guess we would assume... that if he's living a normal lifespan, you know, this could have happened and started like 60 years ago or something like that. And that's not even getting to the whole concept of the Pthumerians, which is a whole other ball of worms. Failure on my part. I should have talked to the little girl. I should have talked to Gascoigne's daughter, because I never do it. I honestly don't know what the dialogue is. I know I can look up dialogue for every character, but... this... is supposed to help me understand. I don't know how relevant she is to things, but... she says stuff. I always forget about the range on that thing. Alright, before we go, let me look up the dialogue for the girl, Gascoigne's daughter. Okay, she says, "Who are you? I don't know your voice, but I know that smell. Are you a hunter?" So hunters carry a specific smell. Now, it can't just be blood, right? Because blood is everywhere. Yharnam is infested with... It's overflowing with blood. So it's not just the scent of blood. And it's not just your everyday guy that's out on the streets right now patrolling. Not only just because he's insane, but specifically there is a scent associated with a hunter. Now, Gascoigne is also a hunter, and that's why she knows the scent. She knows the scent of a hunter. Now here she says, if you find my mum, give her this music box. It plays one of Daddy's favorite songs. And when Daddy forgets us, we play it for him so he remembers. That's really interesting. So that means Gascoigne has a history of forgetting his children. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. She also mentions a granddad, but I don't know if you ever find out who that is. After turning in the brooch, idling outside the window for several moments will elicit the whispers of a man saying, so call out to your sister. Oh. Oh, right, Henrik. Henrik is the granddad. Alright, we'll talk about Henrik at some point. I mean, you know, her older sister, you know, if the little girl runs off and dies, the older sister is like, you know, she's like, what a perfect ribbon, and now it's mine. I can't wait to try it on. Oh, it's wonderful. So she's probably kind of messed up as well. I don't think it's a real normal, happy family, to be honest. But why? Man, what is the lore for freaking Gascoigne? I mean, during the fight, he transforms like that into a full-fledged beast, which is a very unique ability. Like, no other hunter we encounter has that ability, as far as I know. And, you know, for everyone else, they slowly transform into a beast, you know, with hair and fur starting to grow, but he just snaps and changes into it. So I'm just wondering what the lore is behind Gascoigne. You know, why does he forget his daughters? He seems to have a history of doing, I guess, similar things, where he just goes off on his own and he's just sort of a murderous hunter. That can apparently change into a full-fledged beast at will.
Beasts all over the shop. You'll be one of them, sooner or later.
I think, you know, the moon, the presence of the moon, influences Gascoigne just like everyone else. Since it seems on this night, you know, things have gone terribly wrong. And I guess it's implied that he murdered his wife, since you find her brooch right nearby him. Damn. Real slow.
What's that? Sweet. It's enough to make a man sick.
Now, he also mentions a smell. But I don't know if he's specifically referring to your hunter smell, or just the overwhelming smell of blood now since he's covered in it. Damn it. Lord playthrough or not, I still have to kill him. Damn it. Freaking swings. Oh my god, I'm getting screwed with those. He just keeps doing it. I'm wasting bullets. That's not a repostable attack. It's Kim repostable. Choke on D's nuts. Like, look at that. Instantaneous. Into a full giant beast. Like, really terrifying. What, like, one of the most ferocious, strongest, terrifying, like, beasts you encounter. And not only that, he has coverings across his eyes, which is important. Does he have them during the cinematic? I wasn't even paying attention. Yeah, he does have them in the cinematic. So, even in his human form, he has his eyes covered.
Hello, good hunter. I am a doll, here in this dream to look after you. Honorable hunter, pursue the echoes of blood, and I will channel them into your strength. You will hunt beasts, and I will be here for you to embolden your sickly spirit.
Okay.
Farewell, good hunter. May you find your worth in the waking world.
Yeah, so she calls it the waking world. So I'm gonna go with that theory. But the, you know, even though this is a dream, this is the dream, hunter's dream and all that, and they talk about waking world and dream world, they're not disconnected. You know, it's you carry your strength that you achieve in the dream world. You can buy things or whatever. You can obtain things in the dream world. You can upgrade your weapons in the dream world and carry it back into the real world. It's like some of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I guess. The doll is a whole other just... I don't know about the doll. If anyone has any sort of reasonable connection between the Cthulhu mythos and the doll, I'd love to hear it. But other than that, I don't know if I can really say anything about it. As for the character, many characters in here having coverings on their eyes, it really reminds me of a quote from Event Horizon, the movie, where Sam Neill's character, who has gone, fully, like, I don't know, possessed or satanic or whatever the hell happens to him in that movie, insane. He says, where we're going, one of the characters is like, oh my god, what happened to your eyes? And he says, where we're going, we won't need eyes to see. And so it's this whole concept of, it's kind of like From Beyond, I suppose, which isn't a Cthulhu Mythos story. It sort of is. It's sort of nebulous. I might end up mentioning it in the video. We'll see. But in From Beyond, which is a story by Lovecraft, basically there's this this guy invents this device that it pretty much allows you to perceive reality beyond, like, perceive alternate planes of existence. And so you know, the character then starts to experience and see all these alien environments and horrific creatures and things like that, because of this heightened sense beyond the normal. And that's pretty much what Insight does in this game. There's some very specific examples that are specifically tied to how much insight you have. Basically, how heightened your cosmic wisdom is. You know, how in tune you are with the higher planes of existence, if you want to think of it that way. And they allow you to, at a certain point, you before, where you could not see the alien creatures, the amygdala, the lesser amygdala, suddenly you can see them hanging on the sides of the buildings, and you know for a fact, for an absolute fact, they were there before. You can be grabbed by them and things like that, but you cannot see them. Your brain is not prepared, it's not in the right place to be able to see them, and then suddenly you can. And so the covering of the eyes is like, well, my physical human eyes are useless at this point, because what I know about, the way the universe works, the way the dimensions work, physical eyes are limited. They can only show me so much. Whereas, with cosmic truth, with the cosmic wisdom provided by these great ones, then you can see everything. That's basically what that is. I think it's sort of an abstraction. I think it's sort of metaphorical. Because our character has eyes. We use them to kill things. They help us see. You can get headpieces in the game that cover your eyes, and it has zero impact on gameplay because it's a game. I mean, it would have been interesting if you put on one of those armor pieces and it like blacked out the screen, but you could still see like enemies. Like, you couldn't see like, the environments and like staircases and buildings and stuff, but you could still see like the sort of spectral images of enemies. That would have been really interesting. Yeah, so we didn't quite beat Gascoigne. I fucked up. I'm sorry. I'm not that great at the game. But if you have anything to say about the doll in relation to the Cthulhu Mythos, let me know. If you have any other thoughts, opinions, concepts, whatever, facts, that you can aid me with in my journey of discovery, I would appreciate all that. Any thoughts about Bloodborne and Cthulhu Mythos would be good, just to help me bounce ideas off and pick my brain. It's a big project. I don't know how well the video is going to turn out. I have no idea, but I pretty much say that every week, and somehow it works out. Alright, so my name is Mangg. Game you're watching has been Bloodborne. And I'll see you fine folks in the next part.